before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me now in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening and welcome. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Councilor Mercier?
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Here.
Councilor Murphy?
Here.
Councilor Broderick?
Here.
Councilor Caulfield?
Here.
Councilor Dakota?
Here.
Councilor Elliott? Councilor Martin?
Here.
Councilor Mendonça?
Here.
8 present.
8 present, 1 absent. The chair recognizes Councilor Kevin Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Ethel P. Merritt, member of a well-known Greater Lowell family, the wife of William Merritt. They just recently celebrated 52 years of marriage. Mother of Patricia Merritt McGinnis and Pamela Nussbaum and her husband Theodore. Also the mother of John Merritt and the late William Merritt. Her many grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. She is a graduate of Lowell High School, vice president of her class, and captain of the class officers. Attended Lowell Commercial College, and worked as an executive secretary for St. John's Hospital in Lowell, and also in Washington, D.C. for Congressman Gerald Ford and Senator Joe McCarthy. She will be greatly missed by her family and friends, and I just want to offer that moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that forward, Councilor Broderick. Anyone else? Why don't we all rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers? Thank you. May she rest in peace. First order of business is to approve 2 sets of meeting minutes, the first from the September 27th special meeting, and then the October 11th regular meeting. Motion for acceptance.
So moved.
By Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Any comments or questions? Councilor Mendonça?
Yes, on the October 11th meeting minutes, on the 3rd page at the top, recorded a vote as 8 yeas, 1 present. I don't remember who that was present, but it probably should be noted who that was if anyone else remembers.
Okay, thank you. We'll note that change. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of accepting both sets of minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Moving on to the city manager's portion of the agenda. City manager responses to council motions and requests. Anyone want to be heard? We have a summary. Councilor Caulfield.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report on the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility from the manager. The only question I have is there was $44 million in bonds that the council voted on, and so far we have expended $32 million.
Roughly, I think.
You know, you don't have to go through it, but
Right.
$32 million, at least $12 million left, so I'll be interested to find out what the $12 million will be spent on in the future, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mendonça?
On that same report, it was a response to my motion for an update. What I found very interesting is it seems like the odor mitigation efforts have finally paid off, and although there's more to do, the complaints are way down. I don't know if the manager wants to make any additional comments on their progress.
Just that I think, as you pointed out, that certainly the work that's been done there in dealing with the odor problem certainly does seem to have had an impact, and that was actually before the blowers, the permanent blowers, had been installed. So moving forward, we think that the work that's been done has been well worth the investment for the people over in Centerville as well as over in Belvedere, both of those neighborhoods that received the problem with those odors. So I think it's, the project is one that we've talked about, or the city has talked about for a number of years of doing something about that, and I'm happy that the data seems to indicate that in fact it has paid off for us.
Very good. I also had noted, as Councilor Caulfield did, that there's an additional $12 million bonded, so there's another phase. So if we get more information on that, I'd
Right,
appreciate it.
and if I could, just if you look on page 3 of that report, in which that, had to refresh my memory as Council Caulfield mentioned the money, it says of the $44 million authorized, approximately $32 million has been invested. And then the very next sentence is the outstanding work, the work that still needs to be done, includes a sludge dewatering upgrade at Duck Island and an interceptor storage project at the Reed Station, both part of the Capital Improvement Program Phase 1B-3. If you recall, just last week, we had an eminent domain taking for the Reed Station project. So that's all part of it. It's that those two components will make up the bulk of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our packet as well, to the public, was an offer to get a free energy audit available through National Grid customers. And I think it's incumbent upon people where their heating bills are high that the city is offering this incentive through National Grid and to reduce energy bills. So that in itself is a good thing. And they may call the planning department and talk to Craig Thomas in the DPD office in the city. And it's 978-674-1472. And I'm sure, Mr. Mayor, that Diane in your office, if people miss that, because it's probably a tough number to remember, and people probably don't have a pen, they could probably call 970-4040. Diane will kill me
correct.
for this, but honest to God, it's a
She'll be happy
good
to help.
program available for free. That's the key word, free, and I like that word, and so to help save on energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the manager knows, I took a tour of the facility with some report of Moran maybe in August, and a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I suggest that members of the council go out there and take a tour of that facility. It's very efficient. It's a waste treatment plant. It's very clean. And if you go out and look at that facility and see where the money's been invested, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So you will get a general feel of that facility and the work that it does.
Thank you. Anyone else on Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. We didn't receive this in our packet, but Mr. Manager, you selected a treasurer, and you sent us a communication on that. I was just curious how many candidates or how many applicants there were, how many applications received for the treasurer's position, and
Excuse me, I believe we received 18 applications for the treasurer's position.
were any Lowell candidates and other individuals from Groveland?
There were 4 candidates from Lowell, none of whom had, a couple of them were very good that we interviewed, and we're looking at some other possibilities for them, but they didn't have the municipal finance experience. We were very fortunate to have a number of candidates this time that did have municipal finance experience as treasurers in other communities. Last time, I believe Mr. McGurl was one of 2, but this time I believe we had 5 or 6 that met that. The candidate that we chose actually, as you know, had about 9 years of municipal experience, and then another 17 years, I believe, as working in the auditor's office. He is a certified treasurer, according to the Department of Revenue, so he comes with extensive experience, and I think he's going to be a very good treasurer for us.
Okay. Could we get copies of the resumes of those individuals that applied?
No, you cannot. They're not available.
They're not available.
No, they're not public records.
Why is that?
under the
But I think
state
this body
statute.
should have access to it to see what was, again, compared against. How many candidates did you interview?
We interviewed, I believe, Mr. Moses interviewed 7 candidates.
7, so those could be considered finalists. So under the law,
Actually
that is the
not.
law. Under the law, individuals are entitled, particularly if they're candidates, for those names to be released. Anybody? Madam Solicitor?
I'm sorry, what's the,
I just don't know what the issue is. I just think people should be able to see what they're being compared against. I don't doubt the fact Mr. Manager's the best candidate, but
Counselor, if I
it'd be
may.
it'd be nice to see what is measured against. I think that's part of the open process and transparent government, that there aren't any, anything to hide. I don't know what the big issue is with these resumes, Mr. Manager, particularly finalists. I know the law says once they're finalists, that's public information. So I just wanted to say that.
Are you looking for a response?
is,
Some citation, I mean, cite a law or that's it's prohibited.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? Could you repeat that? I don't know exactly what your question was.
I'm just looking what citation in the law prohibits the release of at least finalists.
Well, there is an exemption for finalists. However, and I'm not familiar with this particular process offhand, so I wouldn't be in a position to be able to say who was finalists and who weren't, if there were finalists or not. I don't know.
Okay, so can you give us some information, Mr. Manager, maybe for the next meeting as to what the process was and who became a finalist and how that was selected? Yes or no?
If the council votes that, I'll be happy to do that.
Well, I think it's the law. There is a law in place that governs this activity for the release of information. That's all I'm trying to get at. And I would like to see is someone who's elected by the public to see what candidates were, those who applied and what their credentials were. I'm not sure what the real issue is. So either the manager or the solicitor should be able to say it's not legal, and I don't believe that it's not legal.
Any further? Councilor Mendoza?
Could we ask the solicitor for a subsequent meeting to provide an opinion on this particular one? I know that I'd have a different opinion if it were a council appointment to a board or a council selection, but since this is personnel within the manager's office, I'm not so sure we have the same rights. So if the solicitor could make whatever citations are necessary, so we'll know if we have any rights to this
Well,
information.
again, to be fair, why don't we have that in the form of a motion?
I'll make
Oh,
the motion.
Yeah,
By
and
Councilor
I'll
Mendoza,
second
seconded by
that.
Councilor Mercy. Any further
Becau-
discussion? Roll call on the motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'm sorry. Councilor Murphy, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, one question I would have is, this wasn't on the agenda, wasn't part of our communications, and is this more appropriate to bring up at the next meeting?
You're correct in that it was not on or in the packet as a motion and request, but we did receive a communication from the city manager indicating that he has in fact or has indeed hired a city treasurer. So I'm actually going to allow it.
I think that since there's a communication on it, and it's a sort of subsidiary matter to that communication, that can be made. It's related closely enough to it.
Mr. Mayor, can you just give us that motion one more time, please?
The motion is to get an opinion from the city solicitor to see if this information that Councilor Elliott is requesting is actually available as public information regarding the selection of the city treasurer. That's correct?
I don't know, I didn't make the motion, but I don't have any objection. I would just, in addition to that, if there's no objection to the make a motion, I would like to know what the process that was used, because that's going to determine whether whether this information is eligible or not, because as far as I know, under the law, finalists of any position, any finalist, that is public information. So there has to have been some narrowing down of individuals. Some individuals, you said you indicated that you interviewed 8. Of the 8, how many, or of the 18, how many of those were finalists? And I don't know everything about the law, but I think that's important to find out what the process was.
Thank you. And the maker of the motion has agreed to that, Counselor Elliott.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call on the motion?
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
Yeas.
Thank you. Anything else under responses from the city manager, communications? Hearing none, motion by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Murphy, that we accept the communications placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next item, we have 2 out-of-state travel requests. If we could take them together, motion by Counselor Mercier, seconded by Counselor Dakota, that we take the 2 requests together. All those in favor of taking the 2 items together signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Both are from the Lowell Police Department. Anybody have any questions, comments? Motion by Counselor Broderick, seconded by Counselor Dakota, to approve the request for out-of-state travel. Roll call.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next item, in City Council order, pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Effective immediately for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 266-55, parking for handicapped persons, elderly drop-off zones. C, in order to accommodate the needs of handicapped persons, there are hereby set aside and reserved for persons having V or HP license plate as well as temporary handicap parking permits. The following parking spaces is hereby amended by adding the following. Nelson Avenue, number 54 on the east side, beginning at a point 88 feet south of the southerly curb line of Seneca Street, running southerly along Nelson Avenue for a distance of 20 feet. Section 266-56, parking prohibited on certain streets at all times is hereby amended by adding the following. Pine Street behind 360 Westford Street on the northwesterly side, beginning at a point 640 feet northeast of the easterly curb line of Wilder Street, running northeasterly along Pine Street for a distance of 20 feet. Section 266-59, yield intersections, is hereby amended by deleting the following. A, Bradley Street against southbound drivers on Bradley Street at First Street. Section 266-57, stop intersections, is hereby amended by adding the following. Stop sign on Bradley Street in the southbound direction of travel at the intersection of First Street. Section 266-53, 1-hour parking areas, hereby amended by adding the following. On Dick Street behind 933 Gorham Street on the northeasterly side, beginning at a point 130 feet northwest of the westerly curb line of Gorham Street, running northwesterly along Dick Street for a distance of 20 feet, and then Dick Street behind 933 Gorham Street on the northeasterly side, beginning at a point 180 feet northwest of the westerly curb line of Gorham Street, running northwesterly along Dick Street for a distance of 40 feet. If there's no objection, second reading by title. In City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances in the City of Lowell concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations, are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. What's the wish of the council?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Martin? Question? No. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. In city council vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept a gift of $500 for use by the city of Lowell Pollard Memorial Library. Whereas an anonymous donor desires to donate the sum of $500 to the city of Lowell Pollard Memorial Library. Whereas the city of Lowell desires to accept the gift of said funds to enable the Pollard Memorial Library to purchase a low-vision workstation. Now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and he is hereby authorized in the name of the city of Lowell to accept a gift of $500 for use by the city of Lowell Pollard Memorial Library pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Be it further voted that we, the members of the City Council of the City of Lowell, jointly and severally, do hereby commend and officially extend the gratitude of the City of Lowell to the anonymous donor for the generosity displayed through the donation of the aforesaid funds to the City of Lowell. Second reading by title. In City Council vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift of $500 for use by the City of Lowell Pollard Memorial Library. What's the wish of the council? Move approval by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Any discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Last item on the city manager. In City Council vote approving the exemption of Kerry A. Hall from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. Whereas Kerry A. Hall is employed as a Board of Health member of the City of Lowell, and whereas Kerry A. Hall desires to accept a position with the City of Lowell School Department as a substitute teacher, and whereas in order to be employed in a second position within the City of Lowell, an exemption from the provisions of Section 20 of Chapter 268A is required, and whereas in order to qualify for such exemption, an employee must satisfy all of the conditions under said Chapter 268A, Section 20, and whereas the position of substitute teacher with the Lowell School Department is with a completely independent department, and whereas the position with the Lowell School Department was publicly advertised, and whereas Kerry A. Hall filed a statement disclosing the second job with the city clerk, and whereas the second job will be performed outside the normal working hours of the first position, and whereas the service to be performed in the Lowell School Department as a substitute teacher are not part of Kerry A. Hall's duties in her primary job as a Board of Health member of the City of Lowell, and whereas Kerry A. Hall will not be compensated in the second position for more than 500 hours per year, and whereas the Deputy Superintendent of Finance and Operations has certified that no employee of that department is available to perform the duties of the second job of substitute teacher for the Lowell School Department. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the City Council of the City of Lowell hereby approves the exemption of Kerry A. Hall from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. No objection, second reading by title. In City Council vote, approving the exemption of Kerry A. Hall from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. What's the wish of the council?
Move
Move
approval.
for approval by Council Caulfield, seconded by Council Broderick. Any discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Present.
8 yeas, 1 present.
8 yeas, 1 present. It being 7 o'clock, we do have one general public hearing this evening. Let me just read the vote, and I believe we have a presentation before we actually open the public hearing. Is that right, Mr. Manager? Before we open the public hearing, we're going to have a presentation? Okay. In City Council vote, creating a Commonwealth of Massachusetts designated cultural district in the city of Lowell. We have LZ Nunn from Cool here to give us a brief presentation on what this means in the community. LZ, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for letting us do a very brief presentation. Henry, I believe there was also an additional presentation on the, the other one first. So we're fortunate tonight to have Mary Jenkins. She's the program manager of the Adams Arts Program from the Mass Cultural Council, and I'll let her introduce the Cultural Districts Initiative, which is a statewide program.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. And I'm not known to be brief, so I'm going to try really hard because I know you're very busy. So I've had the opportunity, I want to thank you for inviting me here tonight to present to you. I've had the opportunity to be in and out of Lowell over the last sort of 10 years, working with a variety of people on an arts and cultural agenda as it relates to economic and community development. This initiative, the Massachusetts Cultural District Initiative, is a new initiative for the Massachusetts Cultural Council. It was, the legislation was passed in July of 2010, and the MCC was given the mandate to develop, design, and launch criteria and guidelines for the benefit of communities all across the state. So the Massachusetts Cultural Council is a state arts agency. This is our mission. What you'll notice here is we are very keen on improving the quality of life, or boosting and enhancing the quality of life for all Massachusetts residents, and contributing to the economic vitality of our communities. Now, a cultural district, as far as we see it, is a specific geographical area in a city or town that has a concentration of cultural facilities, activities, and assets. It is a walkable, compact area that is easily identifiable to visitors and residents alike, and is a center of cultural, artistic, and economic activity. Now, what do you do there? Well, you do many of the things that you already find in Lowell. Art classes, educational offerings, art and museum sales, demonstrations of artists at work, art-related street vendors, art creation and rehearsals, exhibits, literary readings, performing arts events. I think you get the picture. And as you go through a list like that, you can check nearly every box for this particular community. The whole point is a cultural district is a lively, engaging, attractive, appealing, enchanting, delightful, and authentic place. And there is nothing like Lowell in this state. No two communities in the state are alike. They all have a very real and authentic perspective to bring around this agenda. Why are we doing this? Well, we believe that would help boost business and job development. It will help boost visitation. It will also help look at and perhaps enhance historic preservation that's already underway, and also enhance property values to the extent that it can boost the tax rolls for the community. It can also foster local cultural development. We want to see more of the same that you're already doing so well here. Any city or town can apply, that is, any municipality can apply for a cultural district, and they can apply for more than one district. Most of our communities are too big, certainly our urban centers are too big to walk all in one time. So this is an unusual program for the state. We're saying actually less is more. The length of designation is 5 years, and the re-up is really simple. There's a report that it will be due every year, and that is really benchmarking yourselves against the goals that are set through the Cultural District Initiative for Lowell specifically. If you continue to make that progress, you can re-up by just literally telling us, and you've got another 5 years of a state designation. This is why we think, what we think makes a district successful. It's about partnership, it's about collaboration, and this is something that this community has been very good at. We've worked very closely with the Cultural Office of Lowell, and many of the cultural organizations, artists, and other community stakeholders here. And I think that you know very well what partnership translates into in terms of making the work. It sometimes makes the work harder, but what I always say is it makes the work better. So the partnership must be a diverse mix of organizations. We want it to be representative of the kinds of businesses, both public and private, non-profit entities that are working in the district. And the point is they have common economic goals. The management responsibility, we made a provision in this that the management responsibility can be given to an entity in the district. For instance, if there's a Main Streets program or a business improvement district or a historic district, they could take responsibility for the oversight of the district in concert with the municipality. The municipality could decide that they're going to actually be the management entity for the district. Culturally, we also left the provision that cultural organizations that lie outside the district can be involved in district programming as long as they actually provide activities that take place there. We're working in tandem with a number of other state agencies who were, in the legislation it states that they are required to adopt this strategy and adapt their programs accordingly. So we have a number of state partners, including the Department of Economic Development, the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and if you want to get the whole list, they're on our website, which I'll tell you about. But we are working very closely with the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, and they intend, once we have a handful of designations made in communities, to market the cultural districts through their website. The designation process is, we've tried to keep fairly streamlined. And tonight is actually one of the most important aspects of this, to hold a public hearing and to pass a resolution that the community, the city, is committed to this agenda. That, moreover, there have to be goals with benchmarks for the district in order to help drive forward an economic development and community development agenda. There must be a partnership, and of course you have to submit the application. We started receiving applications in June, and at the moment we have 72 profiles created through our online application process, and two have already submitted, and we are hoping that Lowell is going to submit in very short order. I think LZ is going to talk about the tangible benefits of this agenda, so I'm not going to go into that at the moment. Just to finish by saying that the good news is this is a rolling application. Communities can apply when they're ready. There are no deadlines. So it's really up to the municipality to really accept applications on an ongoing basis. We think this is a strategy that will serve both our large urban communities and our much smaller communities. It will also mean that you'll be able to think about districts not just in the downtown area, but beyond and in other parts of the city that warrant closer attention, perhaps an investment from an arts and cultural point of view. I want to thank you for your time. I hope that was brief enough. And if you have any questions, perhaps we could answer them later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you. LZ?
Thank you very much, Mary, for coming up to Lowell tonight. My presentation will be very brief. We just want to give you an overlay of what the Lowell's Cultural District program would look like. So if you'll sort of bear with me, the benefits to doing this Cultural District project and program are, I think, great and numerable. However, it doesn't cost the city anything. It's more about capturing the growth and what the city has already been doing. So we will have the opportunity to capture a number of different programs, marketing strategies, and sort of the partnerships that we've already been working on in Lowell to sort of mark the cultural development and economic development related to the creative economy. We'll be promoting our cultural assets. We'll be able to prepare for funding opportunities through capturing the numbers related to this project, and also recognize the cultural assets in future districts. We've already been in conversation with some in the Cambodia Town sort of neighborhood initiative through the city manager's initiative, and we're looking on deck for other opportunities for cultural districts here in the city as well. So our district by the numbers, just to give you a snapshot, We have an incredible wealth of cultural assets here in the city, and just to give you a few numbers, we have over 260 historic buildings, 131 live-work studios, over 206 artist work studios in the district, 5 rehearsal studios in the district, 35 creative businesses, 13 performance spaces and theaters, 19 museums, cultural centers, and galleries, and over 209 festivals and concerts on any given year. Developing benchmarks is a really important piece of Lowell's strategy in terms of cultural development. I think that's why this is an important program that we will be it would behoove us to enter in on from a statewide perspective, because we will have the opportunity to capture some property value growth, develop benchmarks around occupancy rates, box office sales. Hopefully, this might be an ambitious goal because I think it can be difficult to track some economic development numbers, but we're optimistic on what we can do. Aggregate sales tax, number of artists working in the district, and sort of charting job development and job growth. What's next on our agenda? What do we have to do with COOL and the Cultural Affairs Office? We're going to need to, of course, complete the application, of course, pending resolution by the council, organize a site visit with the Mass Cultural Council. Then once that were approved, we would work with signage from the state, a ceremony, and of course PR opportunities. We have identified over 76 partners, and that number is growing. These are potential partners in our district application, so that's quite exciting. And that's it.
Thank
we
you,
have a few
Elsie.
speakers.
Does anyone have any questions at this point, or would you like to go into the public hearing? Why don't we go into the public hearing? Let me do a second reading of the vote. Again, in City Council vote, creating a Commonwealth of Massachusetts designated cultural district in the city of Lowell. The chair would like to open up the public hearing now for those wishing to speak in favor of creating the designated cultural district. Good evening, Deb.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, my name is Deb Belanger. I am a resident of the city of Lowell, and I also head up the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm here to talk in favor of the City Council tonight voting for this resolution. You've heard the numbers before. Tourism is the 3rd largest industry in the state of Massachusetts. It equates to 121,500 jobs, and cultural tourism is a critical niche for our marketing efforts. The numbers prove that people who come to the Commonwealth for cultural events spend a little bit more money, which we all like, and they stay a little bit longer. I think this cultural designation will be important in the future. As you know, cultural development in the arts has seen a increased growth over the years. We've seen it here in this city. It's amazing when you look at the numbers that LZ just presented. And I think this designation will allow us to even further that development with increased businesses and increased property taxes, and with increasing the folks who want to come in to Lowell and live here and be part of the district. I think a couple of the things worth noting, even though there's no funding as of today, gathering all the information that we will gather from all of these cultural institutions will help us as we reach out for further funding sources through grants. So I think people will be excited to be part of this cultural district and provide a little bit of that information more readily. I know that people always look for those sorts of designations when you are applying for grants, and even when people are making choices to locate their businesses and things like that here. And there will be money set aside from the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism to promote the cultural districts within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And as always, the Convention and Visitors Bureau will do the same with the resources that we have. So I want to thank you for your time, and I would recommend that you support this designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Hello, Mark.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Lowell City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I am in support of this, and I urge that the City Council unanimously approve this. Just recently, the Open Studios that is held every year at this time, over 2,000 visited the Western Avenue Studios alone. We have over 200,000 people that come to the Lowell Folk Festival every year. And we have so much things happening in the city. We're a national park, we're a heritage state park city. And Lowell has come a long, long way over the last 40 years. And it is true, the arts, culture, its creative economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Leon. I'm the new executive director of the Merrimack Repertory Theater, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here to lend Merrimack Repertory Theater support to the Cultural District proposal. As you are no doubt aware, MRT's 40,000 plus attendees each year patronize more than just the theater. They dine in Lowell, they park in Lowell, and they discover our fellow artists in Lowell. All of this causes their entertainment dollars and donations, more than 2 million of them every year, to percolate through our local economy many times over. Further, every study ever done on the subject to date has shown that students exposed to the arts perform better in all academic areas. At a time when school and social services budgets are stretched to the limits and beyond, the organizations and businesses that will make up the cultural district add so much more than just entertainment to the life of our city. We believe that the recognition we will receive from the state in forming the cultural district will be an important factor in both fundraising and joint marketing, and one that will only grow in importance in the future. Though I've been here only a short time, I can tell you that Lowell already knows that we work best when businesses and arts form partnerships. This framework will allow us to expand those opportunities and will help give us the reach we need to attract more Massachusetts residents and tourists to our venue and to our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, on the record, my name's Andy Jacobson. I'm owner of Brewed Awakening Coffee House. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I'm just up here to give my support for this resolution. I hope you all pass it. Personally, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. The fact is that over the past 6 years since I've been here, arts and culture have been significantly on the rise between the new condos, the new art studios, the new tourists that are coming into the city. I think through the partnerships that Cool, CVB, the Chamber all bring, we've seen a lot more people coming into the city over these past years, and especially during a downturn. This is an important aspect for, I think, the local businesses around here, both inside and outside of the downtown. I can tell you, with these events that are occurring on either a weekly or a yearly basis, it's definitely helping us give more hours to our employees, which, and a lot of them are students or young adults around here who are here. They are using these dollars and spending it inside Lowell. So I think it's a great opportunity for us from a PR perspective, and I urge you to support it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Anyone else in favor?
My name is Maxine Farkas, and I'm the director of Western Avenue Studios, and I am a resident of the city of Lowell. And I'm here in support of this resolution. Mark Goldman mentioned that we had 2,000 visitors at Western Avenue Studios for Lowell Open Studios. We had far more than that in the entire city. Just to give you some hard numbers, I don't have all the data yet, About a third of the people who participated reported we had $36,000 in sales in 2 days, and we had 2,000 visitors. So each visitor, on average, spent about $17, $16 at Western Avenue alone. I don't have numbers for downtown yet. I don't have numbers for 119. In addition to the money that visitors spent, the Lowell Open Studios Committee spent $8,000 with downtown businesses to do our printing, to do our, a lot of our promotional activities. So we're generating income not only for the artists, but we're also putting it right back into the city. So we are an economic engine. We might be kind of small, we might sputter a lot, but we are generating income. We are helping the city grow. Western Avenue Studios last year paid over $100,000 in property taxes to the city. We are part of here. We think this will help us, and we hope that you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maxine. Anyone else in favor?
Good evening. I'm Walter Wright. I'm with 119 Gallery. We actually came to Lowell over 12 years ago, although we only opened the gallery 6 years ago. So we've been active here for quite a while. We purposely chose Lowell because it was unique, because I already knew there were artists working here, and because I really liked the city. There were three things we discovered when we came, three things that artists were missing. They were missing live workspace, they were missing support, and recognition. Now, the city's done a great job in the intervening time with providing live workspace for artists in cooperation with all sorts of people. That's wonderful. Also support through COOL and the local cultural council. I think for me, and for 119 Gallery, and for the people who are members of our gallery, most are between the ages of 18 and 44, by the way, so they represent the younger artists, the emerging artists. I think about 80% of the people who were in the anthology that COOL published have had a direct contact with our gallery in the last few years. What it represents for us and for them would be recognition that Lowell is really a place that values art and artists and supports them. So even though I'm not inside this district, I fully support and think you should vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter. Anyone else to speak in favor? Speak in favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition. The public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Council Caulfield, second by Council Mercier. Any discussion? Council Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to say this again. I know I've said it a number of times, but I'm pretty proud of the fact that we have a very unique city seal. And the city seal says that art is the handmaid of human good. It could depict anything at all, but it depicts art, and that's what I think the city is. We enjoy many concerts, festivals, theaters, auditorium venues, artists' work. And if we are to remain a destination city, and that's why people come here for these offerings that we have, and if we are to remain a destination city, I think this designation only adds to the whole picture, and I think that's worthwhile. And I want to just specifically say that I loved Mary's accent. I could have listened to her talk all night long. That was so unique and inspiring. And I hope that this vote gives the artists the recognition that they desire. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the folks who took the time to come and speak tonight on this. It is an important recognition. My only wish is that Mr. Wright's studio was in the district, but perhaps over time it will grow to encompass the 119 Gallery too. So, but certainly this is a worthwhile endeavor. Hopefully we'll derive some benefit from it, and thanks for everybody's hard work on it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Mendoza?
I think one of the key phrases that we use is that this is essentially a no-brainer, so have my support.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilor Mercier?
We just held a public hearing because that's what they desired. I thought one of the requirements as well was a resolution. Do they want us to form some sort of a?
We had the vote. The vote was the resolution.
Oh, this is the
Correct.
resolution. Okay.
Correct, yes. Thank you. Again, thank you all for being here. It's, we certainly appreciate your participation. It obviously is a worthwhile designation to have, so we certainly appreciate your support. Thank you. Moving on to subcommittee reports, the chair recognizes Councilor Mendoza.
Yes, the Ad hoc Clerk Oversight Subcommittee met this evening. The members are myself, Councilor Martin, Councilor Mercer, and Councilor Murphy. Also in attendance was Councilor Broderick, Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Dakota, Mayor Milonazo, and from the administration we had City Solicitor O'Connor, City Auditor Wright, City Manager Bernie Lynch, and presenting his report was Attorney Brian Leahy. We appreciate the time that he took to prepare the report and being here to present it. The report has already been reported on extensively. All of my colleagues have already read the report, so I'm just going to briefly go over that. Through the presentation and questioning, we covered the area of the office structure, what association memberships clerk and assistant clerk should join, the financial accountability and how cash is handled in the office, the record keeping, both of minutes and vital records, agendas, etc., issues related to the open meeting law and the state ethics law, along with public records related to the open meeting law. From that, we're generating a list of issues to be addressed. In subsequent meetings, we will look for solutions to those. We will look to the auditor, either the clerk when selected or the interim clerk, along with the city manager, for what resources we may be able to apply in solving these issues. And we'll be meeting again to continue our discussion on Thursday, the 27th
Yep.
at 5:30. And that's a report of progress. The subcommittee recessed till the next meeting.
Thank you.
And if my colleagues on the committee want to add anything, I'd welcome that.
Any other comments from other members of the committee? Motion by Council Martin, seconded by Council Murphy to accept the report as a report of progress. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Any other subcommittee reports this evening? Hearing none, moving on to the general petitions. We have 3 claims for property damage. Motion by Council Caulfield, second by Council Elliott, that they be referred to the law department. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Continuing on with general petitions, we have a miscellaneous petition from Donata Santana from 90 Gate Street, request for handicap parking sign. Like that to be referred to the traffic engineer by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. I'm sorry?
Mr. Mayor, could I amend that to make it a 60-day trial?
City Solicitor O'Connor, can that be amended?
Would you be amending it, Counselor, to include the handicap parking sign, but to treat it as a 60-day trial?
Yes.
That's fine. Yep.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Then to do a 60-day trial, and then we'll get a report back from the traffic engineer. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next one, miscellaneous, Ray Barrowich from 17 Ellis Avenue, discuss keeping Father McGuire Park clean. I believe Mr. Barrowich is registered to speak. Good evening.
Hello, councilors. I live on Ellis Ave. My name's Ray. I live right behind Father McGuire Park. I mean, you can literally open the gate of my backyard and walk right into the park. I'm going to keep this simple. That way I can open it up for your questions. I mean, I have an email here from the city manager saying once a week the park will get cleaned up. It isn't happening, and I would just like that to happen. Any questions in regards to anything?
Anybody have any questions? I know we did get, I believe, some photos. Did we get some photos?
Those were provided by our office.
Okay.
The park.
So, has the park been cleaned?
I wouldn't be here if it was. I mean, sometimes it gets out of hand. Last time, like right after the hurricane, the city ended their league practices. Garbage was left out from them for like 2 weeks. I'm just losing my mind. I mean, I try to do my part. I pick up probably the last 2 seasons like 50 barrels of recycled materials. I had a Lowell Catholic student one time come up for community service, helped me clean the entire park up like 2 years ago. I just don't understand why this is such a difficult task. I'm just asking to pick up garbage. And the garbage is not only in the cans, it's around the cans, it's the entire park. And what's amusing is, when it's around the entire park, the lawnmower people just run over it, which creates even more garbage. I'm blown away. And garbage does include broken glass, pizza boxes with food in it, used diapers. McAvenue School uses this park on occasion. Can somebody just explain it to me, like I'm a 3-year-old, why the park just can't be looked at once a week and cleaned up? I just don't understand.
Thank you. We'll try to get you an answer, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, we do have Mr. Bellegarde here. Perhaps Mr. Bellegarde can discuss the park department's schedule for Father McGuire as well as all of our parks. And we do work closely with Ray Boughton and Cheryl Saber of the two organizations that use Father McGuire quite a bit. So Mr. Bellegarde could perhaps discuss with the council the park. And I know that we've also met with Mr. Barrowich on a number of occasions out there as well. But Mr. Bellegarde.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Father McGuire's park is on a maintenance schedule, and there has been challenges there because of the usage there. However, over the past several months, I've talked to Ray. I've been over his house. I've been on his porch. I've been on the park. I've answered his emails. And when he does call, email, or other, whether my department or another department, we do try to give him service. I think, he has a lot of passion. He lives on the park. I can understand that. The bigger picture, though, there's 92 parks in the city. There's 120 green spaces. We also have 6 municipal cemeteries. Our numbers may be down, but our resolve is still high. We're still trying to make these things work. And a few of the times when he called and we responded, I was really surprised to see the condition of the park versus what he said what the condition of the park was. So I'm not exactly, I don't fully understand the issue of he doesn't feel as though he gets the service. I think he wants and probably deserves more service, but so doesn't the other 92 parks in the city, including our College Stadium. Because of the fact that, we're into a fall schedule now, it does get a little bit easier for us to get around. But, you could clean some of these parks on a Monday and on Wednesday, they'd look like they haven't been cleaned. So we are trying, and we take every call that comes in seriously, and he's one of many that do call, not necessarily in this area, and when we get them, we respond to them.
Mr. Bellegarde, how many times a week do we get out to Father McGuire?
We try to get out at least once a week to empty the barrels, and at least every other week to do some park maintenance. During the summer, it's actually more than that because we're cutting the grass. We also develop park partnerships. This is one of those park partners, parks that have a strong relationship with the leagues that are involved with that park. Unfortunately, the the leagues do generate problems and trash, but these particular leagues actually take care of business and also make an extension of our workforce, make it at least easier for us to maintain the park. But that league is now, in the fall season, it's no longer available to us.
I guess just in closing, Mr. Mayor, if I could, not so much a question, but certainly we have, as Tom indicated, and Henry has been doing quite a bit of work on this as well. When Mr. Barowitz calls, we go out, we meet with him. We've done that on numerous occasions. When he calls, we go out there and try to identify any of the issues. But we do try to stay on top of this, and we will certainly continue to do that and try to improve that as well. But that's really where we stand with regards to that park.
Thank you. The chair would like to entertain a motion to...
For 1 minute?
Yes.
The league should be commended. I mean, they keep the park spotless. I mean, the city councilor should just call them all up and say thank you for that 2.5 months of service they do. Pictures don't lie. I got pictures of this. If, not to make light of the subject, there is garbage literally there. I'm more than willing to email anybody those pictures. I don't understand. Excuse me. I've lived there for 10 years. It's been the last 2 or 3 years. All of a sudden, it just fell apart. It's been taken care of all this other time, so why not just resort back to the old system or whatever? And that included 92 parks. On an end note, again, I see the city of Lowell going around putting pictures of Lowell's son about, people leaving furniture on the street and everything like that. We can't even keep a park clean. And it's not my ideal of what a park should be or whatever like that. How can we set an example to people when you go around to residents and everything, say, hey, clean up your mess when a park is not even kept clean? I just don't understand. I'm more than happy to send these pictures out. I believe you guys would be you'd sit there and go, come on, this just isn't reality to see broken glass everywhere where kids play and all the boxes of food and everything like that. In the long run, this invites wildlife to come in, and I've seen it, where raccoons and everything. You hear other communities talk about rabies and stuff like that. You're actually setting up a zoo there for all these animals to live in. And this is important because this is right in the smack of the middle of a residential area. Unlike Shed Park, maybe, where there's that openness, separating the buildings and everything, this isn't the case here.
Yeah. Well, again, this is one of those...
Just like right here with this email, just promise me it's going to be once a week, and I'm not cleaning the park up. That doesn't mean just emptying cans.
If I may, I certainly think we can commit to the one time a week. But if it gets messy between that, then that becomes a problem for us, and that might be when you're taking pictures and sending them off. But if I could, and if that happens, if you contact us, we'll be happy to go out and again address the serious issues that are out there. And again, we have 92 of these, plus a number of other green spaces. And I think Mr. Bellegarde has downplayed the fact that his department has been decimated by the budget cuts. And again, these are the issues that we face across the city when we cut back on staffing in all of these departments. We will try to respond to your
concerns. I'll give you an example. I sent the thing out here. Yeah, the park was spotless.
Right.
Guess what? There's still broken glass in the middle of the court. Why stop there? Just clean up the broken glass.
Yeah.
And if you send one guy up there with no tools to sit there and pick up each individual piece of paper, get him a rake.
Yeah.
Cuts the time in half.
I agree.
If you want to save money, here's an idea. Shut the park down an hour, hang a sign up there and say, look, due to budget restraints and everything like that, we have to shut the park down to save electricity to clean it up. There's all kind of options here. And I don't want to be the policeman of the park. What drove this? Garbage just blown into my place, even though it's fenced and everything. Come on, guys. It's just once a week, go up there and clean the park up. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you. Council Mercia, then Council Elliott, then Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have his email in front of me, and I wish the gentleman would come back to the podium because I want to know what he means by this statement. I would like to know when I file a motion in the courts for such a matter against the city who is listed as the defendant for the city, and who should I have the papers served to? What is your plan, sir?
That's I owe you guys an apology. I'm sitting there writing emails, for 2 years or whatever like that, trying to motivate people or whatever. This is a public
Are
safety.
you taking the city to court? Because
No, I am not right
Then why
now,
did you
but
write such a thing like this?
Trying to sit there, motivate people to say, look, this is going to be the end result. I want this problem solved, but if this is the only way I can do it, to sit here and do this, so
Well,
be it.
that, to me, is a threat.
I know it's in the email, Counselor, but I think he was just asking a question.
And my last comment is, I don't know how this council is obligated to instill values and cleanliness into the public. It's no different than putting up signs and saying, please obey these signs, please don't speed, and then they do. I don't know how you legislate the law to have people have common sense and cleanliness. I don't know how it becomes our fault, but I do know that we are in fiscally hard times. I know of your frustration, but we are just as frustrated too when the public has people go over there and don't respect our property. I don't know that it's our fault, and I know that we have a department that is trying to be on top of it, and sometimes it's a little frustrating for us as it is as of you.
Thank you. Counselor Elliott.
I understand Mr. Barowicz's frustration. I've spent many a summer out there. And I can also say you're welcome, because I've been one of those individuals that was there week after week picking up that court. And I understand your frustration. I really do. I think Cheryl Saber and her husband and the staff and Ray Booton, they take immaculate care. And they're just as frustrated, because after the season or before, the place is a mess. And it's the people that use it. And it's the kids. There are barrels there. I have been there where there is an empty barrel and trash everywhere. And it is disrespect, and it's not appreciating that facility. I think you're seeing more use at that facility because Mr. Bellegarde, and I know I filed the motion, it was supported by this entire council, put brand new basketball rims, brand new posts, and they maintain it. They striped it, because it's used, it's one of the more, it's a park that's used. There are leagues, and it's a nice facility, so you get more teenagers there, and they will not use the barrels, and it's unfortunate. And it's, to clean that park, it's a daily issue, and
But I'm not even
it's the
asked for
city's
daily.
responsibility, but we can't be sending a park crew over to that park every single day. We don't have the resources. I mean, it's the city's responsibility, I understand, to maintain the park, but to clean it, I mean, that's just a basic thing that citizens, look, I know we have 3,000 people at Edward Street every single week, and trash happens, and people pick it up because we ask them to pick it up, because if they don't, we're gonna have to, have to pay somebody to do it, because we don't have volunteers to do it all the time. So while we did open the parks, and I don't know what the solution is, but if the people that use it don't keep it clean, maybe we do have to shut it down. And that's not the thing to do, because it's giving kids something to do, so they won't be getting into trouble, or it's a constructive thing to do. So there's no easy solution, but to have the city have someone there every day, I think that we should pick up. I have to tell you, at the soccer field, and it's not all year round. We do it. I do it. The city provides a dumpster, and we empty the barrels. And there's 8 to 10 barrels. So, short of the league being there, I don't know what the solution is. But so it's frustrating. But it's a nice park, and it does get dirty because of it's the kids that are using it, and they won't even use the barrels. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Elliott.
Thank
Councilor Caulfield.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have many dedicated employees in the city, many dedicated departments. And I don't know one department is more dedicated than Parks and Recreation. The men and women in the Parks Department work tirelessly with an awful lot of dedication. I've seen them work. I've seen the work they can do. When Manager Lynch first came here 6 years ago, we had Manager Lynch had a press conference at Gage Field. They just don't cut the grass. They install the entire complex. The entire complex. In this city, We have parks as big as Fenway Park, Gage Field, McPherson Field, Hadley Field, Cowee Park Little League, the Montblow Ball Field on Westview Road, Shed Park, South Common, the Stockloza Field, College Stadium, the Edward Wallace Soccer Complex. As Tom Belgett indicated, 90 different parks with many, many green spaces. Sir, where do you live you live near the park?
Park's right behind me. I live right on LSF.
Right behind it.
Right,
It's hard for me to comprehend that if the parks are all in this bad condition, why we're not getting calls from other community leaders in these various ballparks I just mentioned.
You have to ask them.
And I can't, I'm gonna go personally.
There are people
I'm gonna go there personally tomorrow,
It's clean.
personally.
It was just cleaned within a week. It was just cleaned. I'm here tonight just to try to get it on a regular schedule. That's all.
Well, I
And
think,
that's not happening. I can show you the pictures. It's not happening.
I'm looking at the pictures. I
From
can't see
me
anything
or-
wrong with that
Were those
ballpark.
from me?
This picture right here.
Was that from me?
No.
Those
That was from-
pictures aren't from me.
Yeah, we could,
I think you'd see night and day on the pictures I'd send you. You wouldn't believe that that's the same photo or whatever.
You know, I know Ray Booton and Ronnie Montblow and everyone in the Pawtuckaville Little League Youth Organization.
Yep,
If those conditions at McGuire Field were that bad that you're saying they are,
not McGuire
Ray Booton will
Field.
be standing there, not you.
Not McGuire Field.
What's that?
Not McGuire Field. It's the basketball courts.
And they play softball there.
Yeah. So if they play softball, they might not even notice those basketball courts or not even care about it. The field is maintained and everything like that. It's all around the little kids area, the basketball courts and everything like that.
Okay, well,
Mr. Manager, I have full confidence in that man and his department. And it's hard for me to believe that this park is in that condition. And I will personally go there tomorrow and look at it myself.
You'd be wasting your time, Counselor, because it's perfectly clean now. And with Tom, I have full regards to him, too. I worked with him on a Varnum elementary school project one time. I don't know if he remembers whatever, putting in a playground over there. So, I have the pictures. I don't understand, you
Wait a
know?
minute, you're saying it's clean now?
It's clean because immediately when I filed the motion.
Who do you think messes it up or gets it dirty? The Parks Department?
No. It's the people around there or whatever. But that's not the point. The point is, how are we going to resolve this issue to keep it clean? That is the major point here.
right, we understand your point. Well,
Not people's morals or anything
Right.
like that. How are we going to get into a groove to keep the park clean? That's the issue.
Right. Again, Mr. Barrett, thank you for bringing it to our attention. We're going to refer this to the city manager's office for a full report, and hopefully we'll get it on a weekly schedule to satisfy
But I like
your
those
request.
pictures.
Okay.
Everybody's set? They don't have to see pictures? The photo, would you like them? Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. All those in favor of sending, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to refer to the city manager's office?
So moved.
So moved. Second by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor of referring this issue to the city manager's office signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. The last general petition, miscellaneous, Attorney Plunkett and Plunkett for Stickville Wilder LLC, I believe.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a resident, a neighborhood president, really, of the Lower Highlands, Tanya Mullane Dixon, who would like to speak on this particular
Okay, I
issue.
need a motion to suspend the rules by Council Mercia, second by Council Caulfield, that we suspend the rules in order to have the public speak on this petition. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Welcome, Taya.
Thank you. My name is Taya Dixon-Mullane. I'm the president of the Lower Highlands Neighborhood Group. I'm also a historic preservation consultant, and I'm a former member and chair of the board of the Lowell Historic Board. Just as a preface there. I'm present here before you because I saw this petition on the City Council's agenda on Friday night, and the property in particular that this petition references is 291 Wilder Street. That property, as well as 350 Wilder Street, which is only a few doors up, are great concerns to the neighborhood. What you may not know is that the Wilder House, which is 291 Wilder Street, was listed as one of Preservation Mass's most endangered properties in 2009. And we, as a neighborhood group, met with the owner of 291 Wilder Street in October of 2010 and have not heard back from him yet on his plans. But we understand actually there's a hearing before the Lowell Historic Board next week, I believe, for demolition of part of a building on the property that has collapsed from snow, I believe. I have a little bit of a concern about the proposed change in the zoning, and generally speaking, I'm a preservation consultant. I work with developers all the time, so I generally like to give owners tools to rehab their historic buildings. But some of the language, and it's very brief, but references, changing traditional single family or traditional two families in historic districts, provided that those historic districts are under design review by the Lowell Historic Board. Currently, the Lowell Historic Board does not have design review authority over any alterations to existing buildings in neighborhood historic districts, with the exception of demolition and new construction. So currently that doesn't exist. There is no design review for subdivision of existing buildings. This change affects more than just the Wilder Street Historic District. It affects, and this is just my back of the envelope review of the zoning maps, the Wilder Street, Tyler Park, Livingston Harvard, Wanna-Lancet, Rogers Hill, Fort Hill Park, and then any future neighborhood historic district that might be created. That I understand that there are some neighborhoods in the city that are interested in sort of pursuing this as some protections for their own neighborhoods. So I just want the city council and wherever this petition may end up to sort of carefully consider what changes to zoning specifically in historic districts means. Will it change the neighborhood character that made these things historically significant? Does the Lowell Historic Board need more regulation in order to protect districts if changes are proposed? And does the community that is made up of this historic district actually want this kind of change to their zoning? I think what we need to do is balance protecting historic properties and development. So I think really what I'm trying to express here is that I think there needs to be communication between the neighborhoods, the districts, the residents, and then what this might mean for them if some zoning does change and how that might change their character, and whether or not this potentially could be a concern for people that they may not want to become a historic district, which we certainly don't want. I wouldn't want to discourage if adding this layer of review could change what is so important about these districts right now. So, but thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I think Deb also wanted to say a few words.
Deb, would you like to speak while we're under suspension?
I just wanted to make 3 points. Deb Forgione, Pawtuckaville Citizen Councilor, just to go a little bit further. It's never a good idea to make a zoning blanket change to solve a problem. And the second thing is, when you buy a single-family home, you should expect it to stay in a single-family zone. And number 3, I think it would be a good idea if it went to the zoning subcommittee for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donza?
Hey, yes, when I saw this petition, I had a lot of questions about it. It asked us to make a change, but by the petition itself, I couldn't recognize what was changing. It also didn't provide any justification why the change might be something we want to do. It just asked us to make a point-blank change. So I have lots of questions about this, and I assume it'll be referred somewhere, but when it comes back before the council, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed and explained as to why bother with this? What is the need that would be mutually beneficial to the city, its residents, and this developer?
Right. Again, past practice would be that this would be referred to the law department to be reviewed and to draw up a proper vote, and/or it could be referred to the zoning subcommittee, as was suggested by Deb.
I'll make the motion to refer to both.
Refer to the
law
city solicitor's
department
office
and
and to
the
the zoning subcommittee. Motion by Councilman Donza, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Any on the motion, Councilor Martin?
I'd also like DPD to weigh in on this.
Okay. Are you okay with that, amending the motion to have the Planning and Development Office weigh in as well?
I mean, I think this particular property is one that the city may have owned at one point. And it does seem to be like a drastic change to address what might be a simple problem. So certainly there's a lot of questions here that need to be considered, and I think DPD has a pretty good track record of pointing out the potential pitfalls of adopting something that's overly broad.
Good suggestion. Great, thank you. Council Broderick?
I was going to just make the same suggestion. The DPD just went through all of the TSF and the other zones, and I'm not a fan of blanket zoning to solve a problem. If there is a problem, I think we should analyze them individually. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Caulfield?
Yes, it's germane to this issue. I think it was last Wednesday, there was a meeting on Harvard Street with the neighborhood, and that new system is working. People came, listened to the developer, the contract and so forth, and they were going to all attend a meeting, discussing that particular issue. So that amendment to the zoning is working. It's given people a chance, and this request as well should be forwarded to the law department, and I certainly support the motion to do that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of referring to the law department, the planning and development, and the zoning subcommittee signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. I want to thank Taya and Deb for being here this evening to speak on the issue. Thank you. Moving on to the motion section of the agenda. The first motion by Councilor Caulfield. Motion, City Council requests City Manager Lynch utilize 2/3 of increased local aids towards tax relief for Lowell taxpayers. Second by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I read the comments in the paper last week about the $1.5 million. I don't know if it's exactly $1.5 million or whatever. And Manager Lynch indicated he would consider presenting a couple $100,000 for tax relief. And I'm looking at the overall issue about taxes. Over the last 5 or 6 years, people have not received a break. And I'm not saying give the $1.5 million for tax relief. I'm saying keep $500,000, snow and ice, or any other issues that might come forward. Give the people a break. And I'll tell you something, Mr. Mayor. I'm not out there campaigning, but I don't have to be. And I get the feel of the people. And sometimes you're so close to the forest, you can't see the tree. People are right up to here with fees, fines, and taxes. This is a way for this manager, for this council, to say, you know what? We have an extra $1.5 million. We're going to give $1 million for a tax relief to the taxpayers of this city. And is $1 million going to reduce their taxes by a large amount? No, it isn't. But it's the gesture. You know, we had a $316 million budget passed this budget term, and I tried to cut $125,000 out of it, and that failed on an 8-to-1 vote. There was nothing cut out of that budget. Here's a chance to give the taxpayers a break. So that's the gist of the motion. I know it's up for debate, but that's what this is all about. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor? Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you noticed on the agenda, I have a similar motion, but you might note also that I'm not calling for a particular course right now, but just offering is you know, a suggestion really what to consider in developing a plan. And it may be that the manager comes back with a plan that has you know, roughly this number in it. I do know that when this first was announced after the state budget, that we did receive an email early in the summer that had suggested a number of different items, tax relief among them, and so I think that it's probably the sense of, you know, most of the council that some significant portion of this ought to go towards tax relief, but I think it might be a bit premature to figure out how much of that. I think that we do need to look at things like building up our reserves. We did approve a budget, and I believe the councilor voted in favor of it, that had with it fiscal management policies that call for building up our reserves to a point where it's 5 to 10% of our budget. So, and when the state actually, really determined that it would have an additional $500 million in revenue because of being beyond the initial projections, the first thing that the state did was allot $350 million to its rainy day fund. This is because it's good financial practice. It reduces our annual borrowing costs, which has a potential really to provide savings in the future. But it also, I think, sends a signal to, we've been talking about economic development on the campaign trail that we miss the councilor at, but a lot of that is, when you're looking at the bond rating of the city or the state, this is one way to send a very good signal, a positive signal to private investment, that we're a place that is deserving of that investment. And so, we've had reports from Moody's Investor Service that in order to improve that bond rating, we do have to build up our reserves. And I think that we do that in a very controlled way. That's why we have a policy in place. So it's not just that we come and as soon as we get additional local aid that we have we completely ignore the policies that we've adopted. I think that we have to do it in a very strategic way and not really veer from that too much when that additional aid does become available. So I would like to see what the plan is. Another item I mentioned in my motion, we might as well discuss that, is the snow and ice budgeting. It's something that I brought up actually before even being on the council, that we need to budget higher and higher because it's good financial practice, so that we're not in a hole the next year trying to dig ourselves out of it. That we do have a plan to really increase that. Since coming on, we've increased that to 650,000, 700,000 this year, and it may also make sense to look at that as a way to make sure that next year we're not in as deep a hole. So I'd like to see a consideration of all of those different items in determining a plan on how those additional local aid revenues are meant to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donza?
Yes, we did make one cut to the budget, so
yes,
the budget was smaller than what was presented to us. Admittedly, it was not a very large cut. I proposed it. I appreciate that the council supported it. I am concerned going forward. I mean, I very much would like to see the manager propose some tax relief as part of this money. We do have to address, I think, the snow and ice deficit, that not the one in the past year, but the one we're going to have in this fiscal year. So we need to put a little more money in there, and we do need to build up our reserves. I will also cross my fingers and hope that local aid increases next year by at least this amount, because if we cut our tax levy and they don't increase it by that amount, we wind up with a structural deficit next year for next year's budget. We'll have to find a way to cut it, because if we limit the increase or don't increase at all, we'll be missing this money in that budget. So we do need to be careful how we do this. And I'd like both of these to be referred to the manager, and I believe he was going to prepare a proposal anyway. And again, I support having some tax relief. The more, the better, but we do want to be careful how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager, I'm sorry, Council Caulfield? Oh, I'm sorry, Council Elliott first.
That's okay, go ahead, Council Coffey.
Well, okay, Council Caulfield.
I, very briefly, no matter what the debate is, I want a roll call on this motion, a roll call vote before we finish this evening, okay?
Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support this motion. I'm going to support this motion because local aid is revenue sharing from the state, and the state shares revenue with municipalities to offset their costs. We have a budget that's in place, and this is money in addition to. This is surplus money that the state is giving to cities and towns. And I'm not so interested in sending a signal to bond companies. I'm interested in sending a signal to the people at home who I have heard from that we hear you, we know you're struggling, we understand seniors have not received cost of living increases, people have not received raises in their jobs, they're worrying about their jobs, and this money wasn't planned for. So I understand. My point is simple. I'm going to support the motion. I think we should use all of it. We knew what the variables were in the budget and what we had to address, and that's how it was presented. I just had, I guess that was my point, but, you know, to say that we want to help people, we want to reduce your taxes, but we have to worry about so many other things just doesn't make people want tax relief at home, and we have the ability to do it. And I think we should vote it tonight so they know that some relief is coming. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, just if I could weigh in a little bit on this, just a couple of points and then an observation on the motions. In the article that was in the paper last week, Council, you referenced that I don't think I said a couple $100,000, I said several $100,000, and what that means is it could be, I guess it could be 200,000 or it could be in excess of $1 million, because $1 million is made up of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So certainly my intent in mentioning that last week was that I felt that we should put some portion of this in some variable towards tax relief, and I stand by that. I did note your comment, Council, and I do feel compelled, and I probably shouldn't go down this path, but I do feel compelled to speak to the observation that taxes have gone up over the last 5 years. Taxes have gone up over the last 5 years, while we've had substantial cutbacks in local aid, and we haven't had the opportunity to have reserves to draw on, because those reserves that the city had at one point in time were exhausted. They were 5 years ago when I came on as city manager. But I do think, I'm very proud of the fact that if you look at the total taxation over the last 5 years and compare it to the prior 5 years, now only to say 5 to 5, taxes have gone up less in the 5 years that we've put in place this policy of controlling the level of taxation. So I think that's important. I think that's important for the homeowners, the property owners of the city, to realize that this city council, the prior city council, this city administration has tried to control the growth of taxes, not tried to expand the growth of taxes. But sometimes that isn't characterized appropriately. Having said all of that, I think both of these motions, 12 and 13, are good motions. I think that we should look at all the different options that we have. And I think that putting 2/3 or some number around that area, or maybe a little bit more, maybe just a little bit less, I don't know, throwing it all out on the table for the council to take into consideration. I think the council, I think the people, what I expect that the council is going to ask questions and look for information. And I'm more than happy to give the information, and I think both of these motions are very good motions.
Council Roderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and maybe to you or to whomever. Are we taking these two motions together?
No.
Okay. So Councilor Caulfield's motion's on the table right now. I guess I was at a forum last night and this question came up, and my answer remains the same. I think we have to give people a tax break, or we have to apply a portion of this to the taxes to reduce the increase. I think that it should be planned, and I think the decision shouldn't necessarily be arbitrary. I don't know how it was arrived at 2/3, 1/3. You know, we do that in the legal practice, and it sounds wonderful, but I don't know if it necessarily works out so well here. I have a concern with the snow and ice deficit, but also public safety. I have heard as many concerns about public safety in increasing or enhancing our public safety efforts as I have in terms of taxes. I've heard some people that said, you know, I don't mind the tax increase if it's going to put more cops on the street, police on the street. So I would like to see, you know, what our plan, what the plan would be, or what kind of plan we could put together to apportion out whatever we decide to spend in addition. But I think we do have to carve out a significant portion of this to be applied to this year's, I guess, expenses. And just by way of a question, because I'm not sure personally how this all works, the motion is to request you to apply 2/3. I guess maybe through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if it will be the solicitor or the auditor or whomever is, do we have the authority to do that? I guess we can request you to come back with a plan, but I don't know if we have the authority to request you to do something specific in terms of revenues, and I don't know how that works. Before I take the vote, I'd like to hear.
Mr. Manager?
Well, I'll give my legal opinion, but I take it as certainly it's a request. I think so. It fits the legal definition, but I get the message. I will tell you that. And again, I think it's a good motion that is a number, as you say, 1/3, 2/3, 3/5, 4/5. Who knows? But I think that the target number of 2/3, is one that makes sense. Councilor Elliott would like to use all of it. It can be any number of, and I think that's where we have to look at the options and look at the variables and see what makes sense. We probably, because we had such a large snow and ice deficit this year that we still haven't closed, or from last year, that we still haven't closed, we will probably not have we'll have very limited free cash this year. Last year, we were able to take some of that free cash that we did have and put it towards the issue of public safety. So we don't have that this year, so we'd like to do something about that. The reason we don't have any free cash is because we had that huge snow and ice deficit, and that's been an albatross around the city's neck for years. Councilor Murphy's correct on that. We've tried to ratchet it up, but it's been difficult while local aid has been being cut. So we need to do something about that. Other communities, for instance, Councilor Elliott mentioned, this is money that was handed back. Other communities generally that I've talked to are either putting it towards their unfunded liabilities, retirement costs, or post-employment benefit costs. They're putting it into their stabilization fund. They're putting it towards, or they're not doing anything with it. To tell you the truth, I haven't talked to any of the area communities, and I know I haven't seen anything in the newspaper talking about what the other communities are doing, but I would anticipate that most of those communities are probably just letting it fall to the bottom line, and so next October, November, you're going to see them having large free cash numbers, because that's where it will fall. Some of them will put it into their stabilization. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it, but I think in our case, we want to put some towards tax relief, put a large chunk of it. Again, whether it's 2/3 or 3/5 or whatever, I think we have to look at all those options. And I feel that's my role as city manager, to certainly analyze it, make recommendations, but provide the council with options. And I think that there's a lot on our table in terms of the long-term, and I stress long-term, financial stability of the city.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick had the floor.
Thank you. So we have two motions, one next and this one here. I could support this if it's a request to try to come back with 2/3. What kind of time? The second request I also would like to support, because I think the responsible thing would be to have a plan as to what we're going to do with all of it. Before I vote, I want to know where all the money's going. But when would you anticipating having this plan? You're talking about free cash, that has to be certified. When would you have a plan?
Free cash is unlikely to be certified. That was a question I put to the auditor. I think she responded to you last week on this as well. That's going to be a while, but what we're looking with, the big number we're waiting for right now is new growth, to see what that comes in at. We're waiting, I think the assessor is wrapping up the paperwork if she hasn't already submitted it, and we're waiting for the Department of Revenue to approve our values and approve our growth. We had to fight for some of that growth last year. Hopefully we won't have to do that this year. And then we look at some of the other receipts and all the work that has to go into the recap sheet. But I would anticipate that we're probably looking at 30 some odd days. Again, councilors will remember this. Some of you remember very well that you spent 3 meetings here between Christmas and New Year's back in 2005 trying to get that paperwork in. I don't think, we've always gotten it done by middle of November to the beginning of December. I don't see anything that's different this year, and that's when we'll be able to have all those numbers in front of us and know what the impact's going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you have a roll call on this motion, I think it's very fair. I know if the motion indicated to use $1.5 million, it wouldn't pass. It wouldn't pass. But this is fair. It's 2/3. Leaving the manager with $500,000 for snow and ice, parks and recreation, or police department, whatever, public safety. Mr. Mayor, I have taken elderly people down to City Hall year after year after year for an abatement. And when I pick them up, they say, I just can't go on anymore. I just can't support these taxes. I said, well, hopefully you'll get an abatement. And I take them to the assessor's office. They're there for half an hour. And I said, how did you make out? They can't help me. They can't help me. You know how many people in the city are in that predicament? And the $1 million that we're going to put towards tax relief isn't going to lower their taxes $400 or $1,000. It might be $50. But it's showing compassion on this elected board and Manager Lynch that we do have $1.5 million. We're going to use $1 million of it to give you some relief. And that's how you win over people's confidence. And when you have that extra money, you try to reach out and show that compassion. And that's what we have to do. Times are real tough out there. This is a blue-collar city. And I can take you to different neighborhoods in this city, people are just about making it. And this is showing them that we do care. And that's the gist of the motion. And I heard on the comments today, on a local radio show, TV show, oh, this is an election year, that's why they're bringing this forward. I'm not running for re-election. I could just sit back and just listen to Bing sing.
I'm writing you in.
But I just feel that this is the right thing to do. It is. Thank you.
Council Elliott, then Council Murphy.
Just to be clear, Mr. Manager, the levy this year was the levy increase, 2.8 million? Roughly. So, I mean, it should be noted that taxes are still going to go up because the increase was 2.8. This is just to provide some relief of approximately $1 million.
That's correct.
Thank you. Council Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the comments from the councilor. I don't think that we ought to set up this false dichotomy of whether being, for taxes or against taxes, or whether, each of us cares enough about what people are going through in this economy, because I don't think there's a councilor here that doesn't. It is a blue-collar town, and certainly there are people here in this room that have experienced the problems with our economy. But I think that really the important distinction is between whether we have and stick to a plan for not just this amount of money, but for future amounts, and that we do it in a reasonable way that really does preserve the long-term fiscal health of this city so that we can still continue to provide all kinds of services for our citizens and slow that growth of the tax levy. So I can appreciate, the wish to make it 2/3, except that, I'd like to see more information behind it. I'd like to have an actual rationale for that particular number. And it's really not to say that couldn't be the number, or that it couldn't even be more, but that we have all the information in place so that we can make a very good decision about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dodson?
If I understand the process correctly, if we did nothing, we wouldn't have allocated these funds to any expense account. It would, by definition, go to tax relief because it's part of the revenue numbers that make up our budget. So in essence, what we'll have to do is vote any portion of this, whether it's $500,000, into some account, whether it's stabilization or snow and ice. Then it becomes an expense, and then it becomes something that needs to be funded. Right. Otherwise, the tax levy wouldn't have to. I mean, they're going to set the tax rate based on the dollars we need to balance the budget, correct? Through the mayor.
That's correct, right. But I think the Department of Revenue has come out with rules on how this money is to be used, this actual allocation of these in some way, or it falls, or they're all standards. And I tell you the truth, I haven't seen those regulations yet. They promised that they would be coming out once they made the legislature took the vote, but I don't believe that they've come out yet. Maybe they haven't come
So
out.
there'll be limitations on how we can allocate the funds, but we still have to allocate the funds.
Right, at some point in time, or they could, as I say, they could just fall to the bottom line, and you simply would, they would be treated as additional revenue that came in after the fact. The Department of Revenue has done that in the past with supplemental appropriations.
So whatever amount's not used for tax relief, before they set the tax rate, you're going to have to bring in some kind of transfer to, or some allocation that we.
Again, we want to see what the rules are that come out on the use of these monies.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motion? Roll call.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
8 yeas, 1 present. Next motion by Councilor Murphy. Motion, City Council requests the manager consider in development, request the city manager consider in development, this is not reading correctly, of a plan for one-time additional local aid, the state's adopted strategic and fiscal management goals for property tax relief, as well as net school spending, minimum reserves, and snow and ice budgeting. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Murphy. I know you've talked on it, the issue.
Spoke for itself, I thought, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Would you like a roll call?
No, that's fine, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote.
No.
Oh, no.
To be recorded as no.
Councilor Elliott would like to be recorded as no, so 8 yeas, 1 no. Next motion by Councilor Murphy. Motion, City Council requests the city manager provide update on Tanner Street initiative and plan for public participation. Seconded by Councilor Mercier. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that Councilor Broderick has brought up in the past and resulted in a significant EPA Brownfields planning grant. And so this is just really to get an update on that particular area and what the process is for public input. The master planning sessions were, I thought, very well conducted and run by the planning department, and hopefully there's more opportunity there for public participation in that really critical neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion? Councilor Broderick?
Excellent motion.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Last motion of the evening by Councilor Murphy. Motion, City Council requests the city manager report on potential of community benefit agreements for future large-scale urban renewal or development projects. seconded by Counsel Martin. Counsel Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is somewhat related to the previous motion in that when we do have these types of developments, that we might encourage the development of these agreements so that we do ensure that there are really protections in place for the neighborhood and the community as a whole, and that we encourage it as a way to really make sure that you're hiring local people, that you are doing so at a livable wage, and that it really does in fact result as a net benefit for the community. So I'd appreciate a report on that, and maybe we could get a roll call vote as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel Murphy. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Motion to adjourn by Counsel Mendonça, seconded by Counsel Martin. All those in favor, we stand adjourned. Thank you.